What's going on, people? Guns blazing back at it again. Been tweaking and practicing yet another competitive deck. And yes, we do both casual and competitive deck profiles on this channel. And this is probably the most consistent deck I've played so far. It's one of the closest things you can have to a brick-proof deck, while at the same time it rivals the board strength of other top-tier decks. Which is why I managed to get a 16 win streak in Platinum 1, currently highest rank in the game until Konami releases the missing ranks. Adamancipator is a combo deck that has a really strong monster engine and prefers to go first, but it's also not even that horrible going second. So here we're facing an Ignister deck who managed to get their Arrival out, and if you didn't know, this card is just unaffected by any other cards, so it's overall a pain to deal with. You might be wondering how we're going to deal with this, because it's similar to Crooked Cook where there's a very few outs, but this deck does have a couple of solutions, and our engine will ensure that we get to it. Adamancipator has like 12 one-card combo starters, and we picked up more than one here, ensuring we pop off. The deck is based on an Excavate 5 mechanic. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck and summon any level 4 or lower rock monster, which lets you get into your combos. It's a flexible combo where there's many ways to get to your end board, and we also have a small Prank-Kids package in here. Helps us get into one of our core combos, which is Gallant Granite into Block Dragon, then turn all of those into Appaloosa. So as you can see, the Prank-Kids package has allowed us to get a Link 2 and a level 4 monster to use for a Gallant Granite. Granite picks up Block Dragon, and then when Block Dragon is sacked, he also gets that triple search to allow us to continue our combo. So there's Apollo USA, and yes, that is the intended way to pronounce her name. Just look at her, patriotic as Fook. She's usually one of your main boss monsters, but in this duel, we'll be using her for a different purpose. Borreload Savage is also part of your core. He gives you that big negate, but as for the purposes of this duel, we just need his big fat body. The win con comes out now, Accesscode Talker, and of course he's not going to pop the rival, but he's going to beat right over the top of it, which is why we needed to use that Appaloosa as a mat, and the Block Dragon is just too busted from the grave, allowing us to lethal through a 6k attack monster. Surprisingly, even though this deck does hang with the other top tier decks, it doesn't get as much hate as the other ones from what I've seen. Although it accomplishes pretty much the same things, like long combos, oppressive negates. Although people need to realize by now that that's a part of the modern game, no matter what you do. So if you want to play Adamancipator, everyone else can go lick one. Go play what you want. Still waiting on Konami to create a good official tournament scene for this game, as well as update the ranking ladder to hopefully include actual numbered rank climbing. So for when that day comes, if you're a competitive player, you don't want to be caught lacking. And this is one of the reasons I'm practicing this deck, so I can be prepared for when that time comes. So let me try to give you an in-depth of the main combo I run with this particular variant. We do run 3 Sekkas light in here. It's 37 monsters, 3 Sekka, and that makes the deck really consistent because it's at least a Pot of Greed. And if nothing else, at least it eats the ash so that you can combo with your monsters without them being ashed. We got a couple of excavators to start off, so usually I want to pick up a Prank-Kids Rocksies so I can turn that into Meow-Meow-Mu. And climbing that up not only gets us a couple more cards on the board and in the hand, but it allows us to summon this Supplier right here. And our board is looking good to go. Our goal is to get a couple of level 4s so that we can turn them to Gallant Granite. Granite, of course, will pick up your Block Dragon. Sorry, let me finish climbing up that Doodle-Doo right here. I don't know why I did it in this weird order, but it's not really gonna matter. I'm just gonna summon Block Dragon and turn Granite, Block Dragon, and the Doodle-Doo into Appaloosa. That's core. Block Dragon will usually search the 2 level 2 tuner researchers and a Gigantes. Here we actually have a level 4 and a level 4 tuner, so we can go right into Borreload Savage. He's gonna DD Crow, but of course have Appaloosa, and you usually want to get Savage after you get your Appaloosa out because that means you've sent your Prank-Kids level 2 Link monster into the grave, so it'll be nice to put it on the Borreload Savage. So that's probably the hardest part of the combo, and your 2 main goals, get the Appaloosa out and get the Savage out. Here I'm trying to excavate another level 4 which I hit, so I turned that and Gigantes into Abyss Dweller, which is not regularly included in this deck, but I included it because a lot of popular decks are utilizing the graveyard a lot. We managed to have enough to make a Brax, which allows us to make Union Carrier and have a token right after. So we use the token and Block Dragon to make IP Mask, that's our final piece. Union Carrier will equip the Buster Lock from the grave, and if you have yet enough mats left over to summon the Block Dragon again, it would be good to pair up with your IP Mask, so you don't have to send your Abyss Dweller or your Union Carrier. So we have an Omni Negate with Savage. It also has a Buster Lock equipped onto it, so they're locked out of their extra deck. Graveyard locked with Abyss Dweller, Appaloosa, 3 monster negates, now only 2 because we use one on the DD Crow, and the IP Mask is 1 bounce because we turn it into Unicorn with the Block Dragon. And that's pretty solid. Like, it's not invincible by any means. It is still weak to like Droplet and Dark Ruler no more a little, but it's a little harder to deal with because the Abyss pops in their standby, and they also need something to destroy the Buster Lock. So here's how I was running it for the 16 win streak mostly. I'm just gonna explain the most important stuff. So we got 12 starters in Doki Doki, Seeker, Researcher, and Analyzer. Researcher is usually the best one going turn 1. You can summon it off a rock, so usually it's like Guardian into Researcher, and then Guardian already gives you hand trap protection. One of the reasons this deck is so busted, it helps you against Ash and Nib. You just keep it on the board. He holds it down until you get Apollo USA. I don't run Adhara. I don't find it that cohesive with the deck, nor is it that important. 3 Crystal, this might seem weird to people, but it's just more consistency. It's another Excavate target. Also lets you special Researcher, and also you don't have to rely on Dropsies to get the water requirement for Dragite. And on top of that, it gives you a card draw if you Excavate it. I only run 1 block. I've tried 3, but I really feel it doesn't need 3, because most of the time it doesn't matter if you open with a block dragon. It does nothing in your opening hand anyway until you get enough fuel into the grave. And he's searchable anyway with Granite, so you can pick him up pretty much any time. Arc Light is nice for if you want to get an Omni Gate out early. Most common use case is going second and your opponent just drops like 5 face downs. Dweller again is a meta tech. It shuts down Drytron and Eldritch, etc. And everything else in the extra deck is just a core combo piece, which I showed in the video. Except for Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. This was the Link Spider slot, but I felt I didn't really need Link Spider. So this is a nice answer to some of the more niche stuff, although I've never really gotten to use her. So I'm just looking for one more solid card to take this spot that would actually see some play. You notice too, I'm not running Serb or Phoenix. I'm just running 1 Knightmare, and that's Unicorn. Hand traps are 3 Ash, 3 Maxx, 2 Nib, and it's okay to main deck 2 Nib. I've even tried 3 because, you know, it's rock, and that's helpful for things like Dragite, Excavate, and whatnot. And then 3 Sekka's Light, which can only really be run because our deck is all monsters except for this spell. It's a Pot of Greed and more. It lets you mulligan 1 card too after it hits the grave. And it makes this deck pretty much 90% brick proof. And if you notice, the archetype itself is pretty cheap. Like most of the ultra rares in this deck are staple hand traps or staple link monsters. I was also trying a non-Sekka build instead with a counter hand trap core. And this is nice for like going on turn 1 without interruptions, but you don't really need this because you already have Guardian and Appaloosa. Plus usually the Sekka's Light again eats the Ash. So in an earlier video, I talked about when is the right time to hand trap someone. So here's how to get a read on the situation, right? You already know he has the ritual spell in his hand, and you also know he has 1 Benton in his hand. So there's potentially only 2 cards he has left to continue this combo, if I Ash this Benton. And that's a way better read, that's way better odds than if you just Ash the first thing you see. And this stuffs his entire play. It doesn't always happen like this, but you just gotta play the probabilities. Interesting hand trap selection too with a Ghost Ogre. It allows me to get this Seeker off even though it's destroyed. And one thing about the Prank-Kids package, it doesn't really do anything by itself. So this would have been a brick, but thankfully we had a block dragon. 1 Supplier can also unbrick you if all you open with is the Prank-Kids Rocksies. But anyways, this is going to be pretty much full combo because of that. You can play your turn 2 similarly to turn 1, but it's just at the end you either end on like an access code to clear the board or a Dragite. Dragite just returns cards on the field, any cards, whether monster, spell, or trap, depending on the number of rocks you excavate. So obviously I can keep comboing after this even, but it's already lethal on board. I could just finish the combo later if he somehow has a way to stop this. And yeah, this is one of those decks where sometimes your opponent will just scoop in the middle of your combo, or just scoop after they see your full board. Of course, can't really blame them, but sometimes they don't, and a Drytron player tries to play through a 3-negate Appaloosa, and they just get a nice taste of their own medicine. Please ignore my scuffed ass board with the Link Spider just chilling there though. But going back, you know, there's a lot of ways to get this combo started, so I'm just gonna show you some more possibilities. Like with Rocksies, as I said, if you have Supplier, you can even turn this into a full combo, because Supplier will summon off of the link, and then you can go ahead finish off the Doodle-Doo. This will get a Rocksies back on your board, and that's 2 level 4s. You can turn it to Granite, pick up Block Dragon off of that, link those 3 into your Apollo USA, fight for freedom, fight for your country. Block Dragon picks up Gigantes and the 2 small excavators. and these can summon off the Gigantes. And hopefully you get some hits off of these excavates, but even then you can make a Raptite off of just Gigantes and the Researcher. And by the way, excavate animation is really long. That's one of the things that if Konami decides to improve, they need to cut down on this. Would be a lot less tedious for everybody. And then Savage Dragon you could just naturally make off the Raptite and any level 2 tuner. Many ways to get into that. Complete the Abyss with the level 4s, because after you use most of your excavates, it's not that easy to come across more level 4s unless you still have your Gigantes. And then Onion Carrier and IP Mask can easily be made with just Block Dragon and whatever is left over, because they're more flexible. Try to position it like that, the Union Carrier just under Appaloosa and the IP Mask to the right of it, so that when you link into your Knightmare Unicorn, you can also get a card draw off the Unicorn. And the wild thing too about getting that extra Block Dragon is that once you sack it on the opponent's turn, you can get the +3 search yet again. Kind of shotgun the IP on this field spell. Fortunately, it doesn't stop the search, but there are still some effects there that we can get rid of. This chain resolve thing too, it's a little too lengthy. Like, I know they want to make it so it's easy to understand for spectators. Like, we don't need the word resolve popping up for like 5 seconds. Anyways, I'm just gonna resolve in this guy's mouth with Savage Dragon. Hopefully, like, this is kind of risky because I'm using my Omni Negate to win this chain, and like if he has something on top of that, it's gonna be bad, but he doesn't. And here's one last educational example for those that want to learn this deck. The Guardian normal summon into a Researcher, that's one of the most solid ways you can start off. I prioritize that over Doki Doki, dump a level 4 and go into Analyzer. That's also a solid one, but the hand trap protection that Guardian gives is just too good. It just makes it so that you're free from Effect Veiler, free from Ash, free from Nib, free from Psyframe, from your very first excavate. And then on your first excavate, you prioritize Rocksies. If you already have some material on the board, that way you can climb up your Doodle-Doo as well as get your Gallant Granite. Otherwise, another good choice would be Doki Doki, because you can search an excavator from your deck. But anyways, as you can see, this is looking to be right back into the core combo, even though it's a different start. Many different starts, but it consistently ends up on the same thing as long as you know how to figure it out, and that's the fun in this deck, figuring out the in-betweens. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Have yourselves a good one, and this